Princess Zara lived in the tallest tower of a crystal palace that touched the clouds. Every morning, she would wake up and cover all the mirrors in her room with thick, dark cloths. She couldn't bear to look at herself anymore. You see, Zara was different from everyone else on her planet. All the other people had beautiful silver-blue skin that sparkled like starlight. Zara's skin was bright green like the leaves of ancient trees. Golden patterns covered her arms and face, swirling and moving like living artwork. Her eyes were a deep purple color, like the rarest gems found in the deepest caves. But on planet Verdania, being different wasn't seen as special. It was seen as wrong. The other royal families would whisper when they thought she couldn't hear them. "Look at the green princess," they would say. "She looks nothing like us. How strange she is." The servants would quickly look away when she passed by in the hallways. Even the guards would keep their eyes down, as if looking at her would bring bad luck. Zara's parents, King Theron and Queen Lissa, loved her very much. But even they couldn't hide their sadness when other kingdoms would refuse to meet her. Marriage proposals would arrive for the beautiful princess of Verdania. But when they sent her picture, the letters would stop coming. The silence hurt more than any cruel words ever could. Her mother would sit by her bedside at night, stroking her green hair and whispering, "You are my precious daughter, no matter what anyone says." Zara could see the worry in her mother's eyes. She could feel the weight of her parents' disappointment, even though they tried so hard to hide it. The royal court was the worst place for Zara. Grand parties and celebrations happened every week. Zara learned to avoid them. She would watch from her tower window as elegantly dressed nobles danced in the gardens below. Their silver-blue skin would shimmer in the moonlight, and they all looked so perfect, so similar, so right.
Ow.
During one particularly grand celebration, Zara had tried to join the party. She wore her most beautiful dress, made of silk that changed colors in the light. She had hoped that maybe, just maybe, someone would see past her green skin in strange golden patterns. But the moment she entered the ballroom, conversation stopped. People stared. Some gasped. Others pointed and whispered behind their hands. A young noble actually stepped backward when she approached, as if she carried some terrible disease. That night, Zara ran back to her tower and cried until the suns rose. She made a promise to herself that she would never put herself through such pain again. From that day forward, she became a prisoner in her own palace, hiding away from the world that had rejected her. Her days became a quiet routine. She would wake up, cover her mirrors, and spend hours reading ancient books about faraway worlds. The library became her sanctuary, filled with stories of planets where people looked different from each other and where being unique was celebrated rather than feared. She particularly loved reading about a distant planet called Earth, where people came in all different colors and shapes. The books described humans with skin ranging from pale cream to deep brown, with eyes of every color imaginable. They had different hair types, different body shapes, different features, and somehow they all lived together on the same world. How wonderful that must be, Zara would think to herself, to live somewhere where being different is normal. Her favorite spot in the entire palace was a small balcony at the very top of her tower. Here, she had set up a beautiful crystal telescope that her father had given her for her birthday years ago. Every night, she would climb the winding stairs and gaze out at the stars, dreaming of the worlds that might exist beyond her own. The stars became her friends. She would talk to them about her loneliness, about her dreams of adventure, about her wish to find a place where she belonged. The stars never judged her green skin or her golden patterns. They simply twinkled back at her as if they understood her pain. Sometimes Zara would imagine what it would be like to travel to those distant worlds. She would picture herself walking through alien cities where no one would stare at her strangely. She would dream of making friends who would see her for who she was inside, not just how she looked on the outside. But these were just dreams, she told herself. Reality was much harsher. Reality was a world where being different made you an outcast, where your own reflection became your enemy, where even your loving parents couldn't hide their disappointment. So Zara continued her lonely existence day after day, year after year. She convinced herself that this was her fate, that she was meant to live in the shadows, hidden away from a world that would never accept her. She had no idea that everything was about to change. That one night her curiosity would lead her to an encounter that would transform not just her life, but her understanding of what true beauty really meant. The covered mirrors in her room would soon reflect a very different princess. One who had learned to see herself through new eyes. Eyes that belonged to someone from a world where differences were not feared, but celebrated. It was a night like any other when Princess Zara climbed the winding stairs to her favorite balcony. The twin moons of Verdania were full, casting silver light across the crystal palace. She had spent another day hiding in the library, avoiding the curious stares and whispered comments that followed her everywhere. Zara set up her telescope as she did every evening, pointing it toward the distant stars that had become her only friends. The night sky was her escape, her place of peace, where she could dream of worlds beyond her own painful reality. As she adjusted the crystal lens, something unusual caught her eye. A bright streak of light was racing across the sky, much brighter and faster than a normal shooting star. At first, she thought it was just space dust burning up in the atmosphere, but then she realized it was getting bigger, closer. "That's not a shooting star," she whispered to herself, her purple eyes widening with excitement and fear. The streak of fire was heading straight for the forbidden forest that surrounded the palace grounds. The forest was a place where no one from the royal family was allowed to go. Ancient trees with glowing bark grew so tall they seemed to touch the stars themselves. Strange creatures lived there, creatures that the court advisors said were dangerous and unpredictable. But Zara's curiosity was stronger than her fear. She had spent so many years reading about adventures in faraway places, and now adventure was literally falling from the sky right outside her window. She watched as the burning object crashed into the forest with a sound like thunder. Orange flames lit up the night sky, and she could see smoke rising from between the ancient trees. Her heart was racing with excitement. This was the most interesting, the thing that had happened in her entire life. For a moment, she hesitated. Her parents had strict rules about leaving the palace grounds, especially at night. The guards would be furious if they discovered she was gone. But something inside her was pulling her toward that crash site. Something stronger than all the rules and warnings. Zara quietly gathered a few supplies. A healing kit from her room, a glowing crystal for light, and her warmest cloak. She knew the forest would be cold and dangerous, but she also knew this might be her only chance to see something truly extraordinary. Using a secret passage she had discovered years ago, Zara slipped out of the palace without anyone noticing. The passage led to a small garden gate that the guards rarely checked. Her heart was pounding as she stepped into the forbidden forest for the first time in her life. The forest was even more amazing than she had imagined. The trees were enormous, their bark glowing with soft blue and green light. Strange flowers bloomed in the darkness, their petals shimmering like jewels. The air smelled of pine and something sweet she couldn't identify. Zara didn't have time to admire the beauty around her. She followed the trail of broken branches in scorched earth that led deeper into the forest. The crashed object had left a clear path of destruction through the ancient trees. After walking for what felt like hours, she finally found it. In a small clearing, surrounded by fallen branches and still glowing embers, was the strangest thing she had ever seen. It was some kind of vehicle, but unlike anything from her world. It was made of metal that looked burnt and twisted, with strange symbols carved into its surface. As she got closer, she realized this wasn't just any vehicle. It was a spacecraft, and it had come from somewhere very far away. Her hands trembled with excitement as she examined the strange craft. The metal was warm to the touch and through a cracked window, she could see blinking lights inside. Then she heard something that made her freeze with fear and wonder. A groan was coming from inside the crashed ship. Someone was alive in there, someone who needed help. Zara's first instinct was to run back to the palace and get the guards. But she knew that if she did that, they would never let her return to the forest. It would take over the situation, and she would never get to meet whoever was inside that ship. Instead, she gathered all her courage and carefully approached the spacecraft. The door was stuck, but she found a large branch and used it to pry the metal open. The groaning sound got louder, and she realized someone was trapped inside. When she finally got the door open, she gasped. Inside the ship was a being unlike anything she had ever seen. It looked similar to the humans she had read about in her books, but seeing one in person was completely different. The creature had tan skin, dark hair, and was wearing clothes made of material she didn't recognize. The being was unconscious and hurt, with cuts on his arms and face. Without thinking, Zara reached inside and carefully pulled him from the wreckage. He was heavier than she expected, but she managed to get him out of the damaged ship. She quickly checked his injuries using the healing knowledge she had learned from her books. Nothing seemed too serious, but he needed proper care and a safe place to recover. The forest floor was no place for someone who was hurt. Zara remembered a place she had read about in ancient texts, a hidden cave system near the palace that was said to have healing properties. The caves were filled with natural springs and plants that could help injuries heal faster. If she could get the stranger there, he might have a chance to recover. It took all her strength, but she managed to carry the unconscious human to the cave system. The entrance was hidden behind a waterfall, just as the ancient books had described. Inside, the caves were warm and filled with the sound of running water. She made a comfortable bed from soft moss and covered the stranger with her cloak. Then she used the healing plants growing in the cave to treat his wounds, just as she had learned from her studies. The golden patterns on her skin seemed to glow brighter in the cave's natural light, as if they were responding to her kindness. For 3 days, Zara visited the cave in secret, bringing food and water and checking on the stranger's condition. She was fascinated by this visitor from another world, but she was also terrified of what he might think of her when he woke up. What if he was like everyone else on her planet? What if he took one look at her green skin and golden patterns and reacted with fear or disgust? She had saved his life, but that didn't mean he would accept her appearance. As the human began to stir and show signs of waking up, Zara made sure to stay in the shadows of the cave. She wanted to help him, but she wasn't ready to face another rejection. She had no idea that when he finally opened his eyes, everything in her world would change forever. On the 4th morning, everything changed. The human's eyes slowly opened, and he looked around the glowing cave with confusion and wonder. He tried to sit up, but winced in pain from his injuries. That's when he noticed a figure moving in the shadows at the far end of the cave. "Hello?" he called out, his voice weak but kind. "Is someone there?" Zara froze. This was the moment she had been dreading. Her heart was beating so fast, she thought it might burst from her chest. She pressed herself against the cave wall, hoping the darkness would hide her completely. "Please don't be afraid," the human said softly. "I won't hurt you. I think you might have saved my life." There was something in his voice that was different from anything Zara had ever heard before. It wasn't the cold politeness of the royal court or the whispered cruelty of the nobles. It was warm and genuine, like her mother's voice when she was very small. But still, Zara couldn't bring herself to step into the light. What if he screamed when he saw her? What if he ran away in terror? She had spent 3 days caring for this stranger, and the thought of seeing fear in his eyes was too much to bear. "I know you're there," he said gently. "I can hear you breathing. I'm not going to hurt you, I promise. My name is—" "Well, you can call me Alex. What's your name?" Zara had never heard the name Alex before. It sounded foreign and strange, but also somehow nice. She remained silent, wrestling with her desire to talk to this visitor from another world in her. Fear of his reaction. Alex tried a different approach. "I'm from a planet called Earth, very far from here. My ship crashed, and I was hurt badly. But someone took care of me, didn't they? Someone brought me to this beautiful cave and treated my wounds. Was that you?" Despite her fear, Zara felt a flutter of pride. She had saved his life, something she had never imagined she could do. She had read about healing in books, but she had never actually helped anyone before. "You don't have to come out if you don't want to," Alex continued, "but I would really like to thank you properly. I've been to many worlds, and I've never seen anything as amazing as this cave. Plants here, the way the walls glow with natural light, ... It's incredible." Zara was surprised. He wasn't demanding to see her or trying to force her out of the shadows. He was actually interested in her world and the things she found beautiful too. "Are you from this planet?" Alex asked. I've been studying different worlds for years, but I've never been to this one before. It's the most beautiful place I've ever seen. This was too much for Zara to resist. No one had ever called her world beautiful before. To her people, Verdania was just home, nothing special. But this stranger from the stars thought it was incredible. You. Really think it's beautiful? She whispered from the shadows, her voice barely audible. Alex's face lit up with joy. Yes, everything about it is amazing. The way your moons shine at night, the crystal structures I saw from space, and this forest. I've never seen trees that glow like that. It's like living inside a fairy tale. Zara felt something warm spreading through her chest. This was the first time anyone had ever spoken about her world with such wonder and appreciation. And you saved my life, Alex continued. I would have died in that crashed ship if you hadn't found me. You brought me to this perfect place and took care of me. You're a hero. A hero. Zara had never thought of herself as a hero before. She was just this strange princess who hid in towers and covered her mirrors. But this human from Earth thought she was a hero. I'm not a hero, she said quietly, still staying in the shadows. I'm just ... different. Different? How? Alex asked. And there was genuine curiosity in his voice, not judgment. Zara's hands trembled. This was it. This was the moment when he would see her and everything would change. She could keep hiding, but something inside her was tired of living in the darkness. I look different from everyone else on my planet, she said. I'm not like the others. People think I'm strange and ugly. Alex was quiet for a moment, and Zara's heart sank. He was probably getting ready to leave, to run away like everyone else. You know, Alex said thoughtfully, on my planet, we have a saying. We say that the most beautiful flowers are often the ones that look different from all the others. They're special because they're unique. But you haven't seen me yet, Zara whispered. That's true, Alex said. But I can tell you have a kind heart. You saved a stranger's life. You've been taking care of me for days without asking for anything in return. That's the most beautiful thing of all. Zara felt tears forming in her purple eyes. No one had ever talked to her like this before. This human couldn't even see her, but he thought she was beautiful because of her actions, not her appearance. Would you like to see me? She asked, her voice shaking. Only if you want me to, Alex said. I would be honored to meet the person who saved my life. Taking the deepest breath of her life, Zara stepped slowly into the light. The golden patterns on her green skin began to glow softly in the cave's natural illumination. Her purple eyes reflected the light like precious gems. Alex's eyes widened, but not with fear or disgust. They widened with wonder and amazement, the same way they had when he first saw the glowing cave. You're incredible, he breathed. Traveled to dozens of worlds, and I've never seen anyone more beautiful. Zara stared at him in shock. Why, you think I'm beautiful? Beautiful doesn't even begin to describe it, Alex said, struggling to sit up straighter. Your skin looks like living emeralds in those golden patterns. They're like artwork that moves and breathes. And your eyes are the most amazing color I've ever seen. You look like you're made of magic. For the first time in her life, Zara looked down at her hands and didn't feel ashamed. Through Alex's eyes, her green skin wasn't a curse. It was something wonderful and unique. On my planet, she said softly, everyone has silver blue skin. I'm the only one who looks like this. They think I'm cursed. Cursed? Alex shook his head. You're not cursed. You're blessed. You're like a living work of art, like a princess from a fairy tale. Princess. He had called her a princess, and somehow it didn't feel like a burden anymore. I am a princess, she said quietly. Princess Zara of Verdania. Alex's face broke into a huge smile. Princess Zara, that's a beautiful name for a beautiful person. I'm honored to meet you, Your Highness. For the first time in her life, Zara smiled back without feeling ashamed of who she was. Over the next few weeks, something wonderful happened that Zara had never experienced before. She had found a real friend. Every day, she would visit Alex in the hidden cave, and they would talk for hours about their different worlds, their dreams, and their lives. Alex told her incredible stories about Earth, a planet where people came in every color imaginable. He described friends he had with dark skin, light skin, and everything in between. He talked about people with curly hair, straight hair, and no hair at all. He explained how on Earth these differences made life more interesting and beautiful. "Know what's amazing?" Alex said one afternoon, as they sat by the underground stream. "On Earth, we have flowers called roses. They come in red, white, yellow, pink, and purple. But if all roses were the same color, gardens would be so boring. The variety is what makes them special." Zara listened with wonder. She'd never heard anyone talk about differences as something good before. "But don't people stare at those who look different?" she asked. "Sometimes," Alex admitted. "But the best people, the kindest people, they celebrate what makes each person unique. I have a friend back home who has bright red hair. When we were kids, some people teased her about it. But now she's grown up, and everyone thinks her hair is the most beautiful thing they've ever seen." These conversations opened up a whole new world for Zara. She began to share her own stories, her own dreams. She told Alex about her love of astronomy, about the books she read, about her longing to explore other worlds. "I've always dreamed of traveling to different planets," she said one day. "But I thought no one would ever want someone like me on their crew." "Are you kidding?" Alex said with excitement. "You're exactly the kind of person space exploration teams need. You're smart, you're brave, you're kind, and you have medical knowledge. Plus, you saved my life. Any captain would be lucky to have you." For the first time in her life, Zara began to imagine a future that wasn't just hiding in her tower. She pictured herself on a starship, helping other people, exploring new worlds, making friends who valued her for who she was inside. But Alex didn't just talk about other worlds. He was genuinely curious about Verdania and about Zara herself. He asked her to teach him about the glowing plants in the cave, about the history of her people, about the customs and traditions of her world. "Your planet has such incredible natural beauty," he said as they watched the cave walls shimmer with bioluminescent light. "And your people must be amazing builders. I saw your crystal palace from space, and it looked like something from a dream." Zara felt a strange mix of pride and sadness. "The palace is beautiful," she said, "but the people in it, they don't think I belong there." "That's their loss," Alex said firmly. "You're the most interesting person I've ever met. You're a princess, a healer, a scholar, and an explorer all in one. They're missing out on knowing someone truly special." These words did something to Zara's heart that she didn't expect. For years, she had believed that the problem was with her, that she was somehow broken or wrong. But Alex helped her see that maybe the problem wasn't with her at all. Maybe it was with people who couldn't see past appearances to the person inside. Alex also shared his own struggles. He told her about times when he felt different and alone, about the challenges of being an explorer who didn't always fit in with others. "I've been to dozens of worlds," he said one evening, as they watched the stars through an opening in the cave ceiling. "But I've never felt as comfortable anywhere as I do here talking with you. You make me feel like I can be myself completely." This confession touched Zara deeply. She had spent so long feeling like she was too much, too different, too strange. But Alex made her feel like she was exactly enough, exactly right, exactly herself. As the days passed, Zara began to change in ways she didn't even notice at first. She started standing up straighter. She stopped trying to hide the golden patterns on her skin. She would catch herself laughing at Alex's jokes, and the sound of her own laughter surprised her. She had forgotten how good it felt to be happy. Alex noticed these changes too. "You know," he said one day, "your golden patterns glow brighter when you're happy. It's like your joy is literally shining through your skin." Zara looked down at her hands and saw that he was right. The intricate patterns that had always embarrassed her were pulsing with warm, golden light. But instead of feeling ashamed, she felt amazed. Her body was showing her emotions in the most beautiful way. "I never realized that before," she said, watching the patterns dance across her arms. "It's incredible," Alex said with genuine wonder. "You're like a living mood ring, but infinitely more beautiful. I've never seen anything like it in all my travels." Their friendship deepened as they shared more personal stories. Alex told her about his fears, his dreams, his hopes for the future. Zara found herself opening up about things she had never told anyone, not even her parents. "I used to dream about running away," she confessed one night. "I imagined finding a planet where no one knew I was supposed to be different, where I could just be myself." "You don't have to run away," Alex said gently. "You can choose to see yourself differently, right here, right now. You can choose to believe that you're beautiful and valuable and worthy of love. But what about everyone else?" Zara asked. "What about all the people who think I'm strange?" "Their opinion doesn't define your worth," Alex said. "The only opinion that really matters is your own. So maybe the opinions of people who truly care about you." This conversation sparked something in Zara's mind. She began to think about her parents, who had always loved her despite everything. She thought about the few servants who had always been kind to her, who had never looked away in fear or disgust. "There are people who care about me," she realized. Aloud, "I just focused so much on the ones who didn't that I forgot about the ones who do." "Exactly," Alex said with a smile. "And now you have me too, a friend who thinks you're absolutely amazing." As the weeks passed, Zara found herself spending less time worrying about what others thought and more time enjoying her conversations with Alex. She taught him about Verdanian poetry, showed him how to identify different types of healing plants, and shared her knowledge of the stars in return. Alex taught her about Earth customs, told her stories of his adventures, and helped her see herself through new eyes. Eyes that saw beauty where she had only seen flaws, strength where she had only seen weakness, possibility where she had only seen limitations. But they both knew that this magical time couldn't last forever. Alex's ship was nearly repaired, and soon he would have to make a decision about his future. And Zara would have to decide whether to return to her old life of hiding or to take the confidence Alex had given her and step into the light permanently. The transformation was happening. Inside her, day by day, conversation by conversation, the girl who had covered her mirrors was slowly becoming a young woman who was curious about her own reflection. Neither of them knew that the biggest test of Zara's newfound self-confidence was just around the corner. Entire kingdom would have to confront their own ideas about what it meant to be beautiful. The day Zara had been dreading finally arrived. Alex's ship was completely repaired, and he could leave Verdania whenever he wanted. But more importantly, the royal guards had noticed that Princess Zara was missing from the palace more often than usual. They were starting to ask questions. "I have to tell my parents the truth," Zara said as she sat with Alex by the underground stream. "They're going to find out about you soon, and about me sneaking out to the forest." Alex nodded understanding. "What do you think they'll do?" "I don't know," Zara admitted. "They've always been protective of me. They might be angry that I put myself in danger. Or they might be worried about what people will think if they find out I've been spending time with an outsider." But something had changed in Zara over the past few weeks. The girl who used to hide in her tower and cover her mirrors was gone. In her place was a young woman who had learned to see herself through new eyes. "You know what?" Zara said, standing up with determination. "I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of being afraid. You help me see that I'm not the problem. I'm going to go home and tell my parents everything." Alex smiled proudly. "That's the bravest thing I've ever heard anyone say." "Will you come with me?" Zara asked.
"I want them to meet you."
"I want them to meet the person who helped me find myself." Together, they walked back toward the Crystal Palace. Zara's golden patterns were glowing brighter than ever, not from fear, but from confidence.
Ow.
She was nervous, but she was also excited. For the first time in her life, she had something wonderful to share with her parents. But as they approached the palace gardens, they saw something that made them both stop. A crowd had gathered in the main courtyard. Royal guards, court officials, and nobles were all standing around, talking in worried voices. "Princess Zara is missing?" someone shouted. "The guards can't find her anywhere. We must organize search parties immediately," called out a court official. She could be in danger. Zara felt her heart sink. She had caused all this worry and fear. Her parents must be terrified. She had been so focused on her own transformation that she hadn't thought about how her disappearances would affect the people who loved her. "I have to go to them," she said to Alex. "I have to let them know I'm safe." "Are you sure you're ready?" Alex asked gently. There are a lot of people there. Zara looked at the crowd of nobles and officials, the same. People who had always made her feel ashamed and different. A few weeks ago, the thought of facing them would have sent her running back to her tower. But now something had changed. "I'm ready," she said, and she meant it. Hand in hand, Zara and Alex walked into the courtyard. The crowd fell silent as they saw the princess approaching with a stranger. People stared, just as they always had. But this time Zara didn't try to hide. She walked with her head held high, her golden patterns glowing with confidence. "Zara." Queen Lissa rushed forward, tears streaming down her face. "My daughter? Where have you been? We were so worried," Mother Zara said, embracing her parent. "I'm safe. I've been helping someone who needed me." King Theron appeared beside his wife, relief flooding his face. "Zara, you scared us terribly. Who is this?" he asked, looking at Alex with curiosity rather than suspicion. "This is Alex," Zara said proudly. "He's from a planet called Earth. His ship crashed in the Forbidden Forest, and I found him. I saved his life, and he saved mine in return." The crowd began to murmur. Some people looked shocked, others confused. But Zara noticed something different in their expressions. Instead of the usual disgust or fear, she saw curiosity and even admiration. "You saved his life?" King Theron asked. His voice filled with pride. "How?" "I used the healing knowledge I learned from my books," Zara explained. "I found a safe place for him to recover, and I took care of his injuries. It turns out all those years of studying weren't wasted after all." Queen Lissa looked at her daughter with amazement. "You've been caring for this stranger all by yourself? It's incredibly brave and kind. But more importantly," Zara continued, her voice growing stronger, "Alex helped me see something I never saw before." "What?" "He helped me understand that being different isn't something to be ashamed of. It's something to be proud of." She turned to face the crowd of nobles and officials. "I know you've all always thought I was strange because I don't look like everyone else. I used to think that too. I used to hide in my tower and cover my mirrors because I was so ashamed of how I looked." The crowd listened in silence, many of them looking uncomfortable as they remembered their own reactions to the princess over the years. "But Alex comes from a world where people celebrate differences," Zara continued. "Where being unique is seen as beautiful, not wrong. He helped me realize that the golden patterns on my skin aren't a curse, they're a gift. My green skin isn't something to hide, it's something that makes me special." As she spoke, her golden patterns began to glow even brighter, pulsing with the rhythm of her heartbeat. The crowd watched in amazement as the princess literally glowed with confidence and joy. "Look at her," whispered one of the nobles. "I've never seen the patterns glow like that before." "She's beautiful," said another. "What did we never notice?" "How beautiful she is." Alex stepped forward and bowed respectfully to the king and queen. "Your Majesties, your daughter is the most remarkable person I've ever met. She's brave, kind, intelligent, and beautiful. Any planet would be lucky to have her as their princess. And any parent would be proud to have her as their daughter," Queen Lissa said, tears in her eyes as she looked at Zara with new appreciation. King Theron nodded in agreement. "We've always loved you, Zara, but perhaps we didn't show you how proud we are of who you are. You're not just our daughter. You're a healer, a scholar, a brave explorer, and a hero." The crowd began to applaud. Slowly at first, then with growing enthusiasm. For the first time in her life, Zara was receiving genuine admiration from her people, not despite her differences, but because of them. "I want to do more than just be a princess who hides in her tower," Zara announced. "I want to use my knowledge to help people. I want to be a bridge between our world and others. I want to show everyone that being different is something to celebrate." Alex smiled with pride. "That sounds like an amazing life plan." "Will you stay and help me?" Zara asked. "Will you help me build connections between our worlds?" Alex looked around at the crowd of people who were now looking at both him and Zara with curiosity and respect rather than fear. "I think I'd like that very much." Later that evening, Zara stood in her tower room for the first time in weeks. But instead of covering the mirrors, she pulled away all the dark cloths that had hidden them for so long. For the first time in years, she looked at her reflection without shame. The girl looking back at her was radiant. Her green skin glowed with health and happiness. Her golden patterns danced with joy. Her purple eyes sparkled with confidence and hope. "Hello, beautiful," she said to her reflection, and meant it completely. From that day forward, Princess Zara became known throughout the galaxy as the Green Princess, who taught everyone that true beauty comes from embracing who you are, not hiding from it. She became an explorer, a diplomat, and a bridge between worlds. And whenever she met someone who felt different or alone, she would tell them her story, the story of how a human from Earth helped her see that being unique isn't a curse. It's the most beautiful gift of all. The mirrors in her room were never covered again, and her golden patterns never stopped glowing with the light of someone who had learned to love herself exactly as she was.